It's that time where most teams, and indeed whole organisations, are planning their strategy for the year ahead. But what makes a good people strategy? And more importantly, how do HR teams turn their strategy into a reality? Welcome to Talking HR Trends with Natal and Tom, where we explore the latest hot topics and business challenges for the people side of organisations. Stick around to the end of the video for a practical top tip, and please like and subscribe so you get the next video in the series. Hi Tom, how's the weather today in the Netherlands?
Well, it's grey as ever, but the sun is shining inside.
Exactly. It's a bit grey here in Scotland as well, don't worry. So we're at that time of year where whoever I'm speaking to, HR leaders, teams, and also just business teams in general, they're all looking at how to build a great strategy for the year ahead. But what makes a good people strategy? What are the core components in your mind? And what's going to really make the difference when people start to build this strategy together as a team? Talk us through your main ideas on this.
Yeah, you say that many teams are building their strategy. Well, that would be good news, because I meet many teams that if you ask them, do you have a plan? Well, they say, yeah, we are so busy, we don't have time to make a plan. So I think, one, it's good to make a plan. Yeah. Yes. So that's one thing. If I look at HR teams, I also see a couple of things. I see if they have a plan, often it's far too much. They want to do everything. Every chapter of the HR handbook is in the plan. And probably that's not necessary. So it's too much. And what I see is if you try to look at the connections to the organizational issues, often that story is not so clear. And so the story is not clear. What are our organizational issues and how is HR going to contribute?
I think the story is a really important point of how do you build not only a clear vision on what you're going after that year, and as you said, you can't do everything, but why? What are the problems that you're trying to solve for the business?
Yeah.
So that leads into kind of the ultimate question around this is how do you build a strategy that actually can go into action and true results? What's your top tips in this space?
Start with the organizational issues. And probably also there, it's not 10 or 20, it's what are our main issues. In years like this, I would expect topics like innovation to be high on the list. How can we innovate ourselves? How can we transform in the current market? I also would expect well-being of our employees, clients, etc., to be high on the list. So those type of organizational focus points, that's the starting point. Then the question is, we have a whole array of possible HR interventions. The organizational design, recruitment, we can hire other people, pay, reward, we can change something there, development. There's many interventions we can do, but we don't need to do everything. So then you are trying to make a kind of map. Hey, what interventions could drive impact and change in that area? So you kind of say, well, hiring new people, hiring other people is always generally on that list. We should hire the best, and we should hire, if you talk about innovation, for example, how do we find people that really can contribute to that? So that's one. What are the issues and how can we contribute? But then I like the impact effort matrix.
Yeah, me too.
It's a great. That has to do with, in a sense, how can we have the greatest impact with the least effort? That is not so easy, but if you start mapping your possible interventions, well, you might find things that say, well, changing the organizational setup, well, that's not so easy. So probably it has a high impact, but the effort is big. So that's the impact effort matrix. So then you get ideas also about the next step, that's prioritization. And what could help us what could help us with the least effort, and where do we focus on initially?
essentially map out the main issues facing the business or the big problems to solve.
Yeah.
Then look at what are the real tangible wins in each one of them. What could you actually do? But then go and assess them with the impact and effort matrix to understand exactly because you can't do them all. And so what could we do and why? What are we going after? And also you can get business feedback on that as well. I find that's really good to have with a discussion with business people.
And you need analytics in the whole process.
Yeah.
Because somewhere you need to find where are the gaps. It might be that you say, well, innovation is on that list, but we are already quite good at it. So then it's probably maybe less of an issue. So you should use measurement also impact. And we can say, we're going to put a lot of effort in organizing training courses or training effort. Well, but does the data show that those efforts pay off?
Exactly.
Do you have evidence that what you are going to do, that it will really have effect? And often that evidence, well, it's not there. So analytics through the whole process.
Definitely. I actually would say that you need evidence that the problem exists in the first place. And actually, it helps you zero in on what is the true problem you need to solve. And I think that's important here because something like innovation is just such a big topic, isn't it? So what are you really going after and why? And as you said, it could be that you need specific type of skills in the organization, where actually another one could be, we need teams to collaborate in a new way. So, but you can't necessarily do both. So what are you going to go after and why? Exactly. Yeah.
But in the conversations with management, you often find that they tend, if HR talks to them, they tend to phrase issues as HR issues. So you go to the CEO, say, okay, what are the, and he or she says, talent management. That's always high on the list. But that is not, in a sense, you could say, an organizational issue. That's a solution.
Totally. And what does it mean also? So what's the problem with talent management? What are we trying to solve? Exactly. And I think just by phrasing it in a different way and having the conversation in a different way with the senior leader, you can get a better idea. So I really like that idea. So what's the issues? What's the big kind of problems to solve? What tangible wins are you going after? And then the impact versus effort grid, and then prioritization off the back of that. One thing I would say about the impact and effort grid, I love it as well, and I use it all the time, but it also makes you go, all right, well, if this is such a big effort, but we also think it's got a great impact, how do we break it down? So maybe we do some of it now, or maybe we test elements of it to verify that it is actually worth going after, and then go from there. So I find that it's a nice way to actually break topics down and prioritize as well, that grid. Yeah.
And it's not easy. That's because it's all about focus. What you are saying as well. It's making it tangible, but also have a focus. And maybe it's better to focus on one or two things and leave the rest. But that's also difficult.
Very
because
difficult.
in the conversations that people say, hey, but what are you doing about this? And what about this? And what about this? And they add to the list and they add to the list. But the last step is, can we do it?
Yes, exactly.
With the team we have, with the people we have, can we do it?
Capacity is key, isn't it? So, and actually you should be designing strategy based on maybe 70% capacity, because you'll never have 100%. So what is your realistic capacity for actually reacting to new things coming along? Yeah. And so final question, anything that you think people should be mindful going into 2021 around strategy that maybe they haven't thought of before?
Try to not make it all about remote working and those type of things.
Yeah,
so of course we have the situation of the day, but also look a little bit beyond that.
Definitely. And I think I would just add to that shorter cycles probably. So shorter cycles of checking in on strategy. Is this working? Is this not? Revisit your impact effort grid, reprioritize. Yeah, great. Thanks for talking with us again today, Tom. That was really good. And that goes into the practical top tip. So you've got to break these complex problems down. Well-being, developing virtual teams, they're really worthy aims, but they are really complex and multifaceted. So decide what is the problem you're going after, and then focus the strategy on solving that specific problem. And you'll find that if you build that out with a few metrics and data to track, you'll actually have some real tangible wins and make a big difference. Thanks for your time today. This was Talking HR Trends with Natal and Tom. Please like and subscribe to be notified of the next in the series. Thank you.